Welcome to Poker Live. Next question, Crispin. Hot off the press, a man has won a World Poker Tour ladies only event. So basically, there was this guy in Hard Rock Casino in South Florida. Basically, he didn't identify himself as a woman. He just said, I want to enter this ladies only event.
Yes.
And he won because in Florida, the law states you can't discriminate men from entering poker tournaments based on their gender. And Twitter's kind of on fire about that. Like, is it ethical for him to be able to enter these ladies only events? And is running a ladies only event in poker ethical in itself?
It's a really complex question. And the reason I think the debate is raging is because it's one of those issues in which you can take a position that is entirely reasonable, completely fair, from a good place, and yet be diametrically opposed to everybody else. This is more complicated than people think. There's certain earlier fundamental questions we could be asking, like, is it okay to have male and female sport in any category? And the rationale for why we've had these categories for a long time has been
Biology.
Exactly. The relative capacity and physical capabilities of males and females. And so those categories have been largely uncontroversial, challenged in recent years, but throughout history have been maintained with a consistent rationale. Well, we wouldn't argue that women are incapable of anything at the poker table that a man can do.
Yeah.
And therefore, competing women against men is not unfair towards women based on biology. And there are indeed some world-class female poker players that have extraordinary records of success and tremendous personal talent and are able to compete with men at any level. So it's clear that there is no biological basis for discriminating between men and women and having ladies-only events. Conversely, it must be recognised that there is a massive chasm between the balance of males and females in poker.
Oh, yeah.
95% plus of World Series of Poker main event entrants are males. There are plenty of rooms you'll go to, and there are only males. So encouraging more women into poker is one way to expand the poker pie for everybody. It's not surprising then that organisers of poker events would want to come up with things that would appeal towards women. And from what I've observed and what I've heard from many ladies' events is that the dynamic at the table at women's only events is massively different. So you're a lady, I'm curious about your thoughts. You don't play poker, but you know a lot about poker. You're on the periphery of the game. What are the main things that would incentivize you to play poker or keep you from playing poker?
I mean, the one thing would be a ladies only event to incentivize you to play poker because poker is dominated by men. Every time I'm around, there's just guys everywhere. So where do I sit? The fact is it's so skewed towards men and I don't see many women around me play poker, as well as the stigma around gambling in general. That's a huge disincentive for me to jump in. I think if you had more opportunities for women to play poker, surrounded by other women supporting each other, that would be able to change the language and the attitudes towards poker as a sport rather than a poor gambling habit, which I know intellectually that is an intellectual sport, but for many women, we're just kind of put off because we think it's just full of degenerates, more or less. And it always becomes a novelty in the media that, oh, a woman has won this big major event and beat out all the guys. Like that still doesn't attract me to play poker. That says to me that there's still a sea of men. Women have to almost prove themselves all the time. And for a woman, well, for a man, like here, this guy to come into a tournament and then win kind of, again, undermines the whole point of improving the perception of poker.
So what do you think about this guy in Florida? Do you think he should have been banned from the tournament?
My heart says He really should, but I know intellectually he had every right to be at the table. He didn't cunningly, I guess, what kind of, I guess I am part of the social zeitgeist. He didn't cunningly say that he was a woman and then beat people out. He said, I was a man and I'm just basically following the law. I'm able to compete. And yes, he has every right to compete. But I don't want it to promote the idea that all men can just join ladies' events, because that defeats the whole purpose of a ladies' only event. You want women who, from all walks of life, who've never considered playing poker, to jump in this event for fun, because you're going to attract a lot of recreationals, and be like, actually, this isn't as bad as I think. And there are like-minded women around me who can teach me poker in a safe space. I'm not going to be judged. I'm not going to be catcalled. There's men like that as well. Obviously, most people are really nice. But still, the fear is there. If you let men jump in all these events, then it just undermines the purpose. Women will see, oh, it's a ladies' own event, but like, why are there 50 men here?
Yeah.
Of a 100 player pool? Like that. This is a normal event. What, like, fake marketing, fake news?
Yeah, it's a great point. And perhaps I think the bottom line is that there are things that are wrong and you shouldn't do it that shouldn't be illegal to do. There's a difference between morality and the law, the morality and the rules. And some things you might technically be able to do, but it's not the right thing to do.
And it's not your long-term interest either. Like, if you're a professional poker player, yeah, you might get short-term edge, but then, like, you want to also grow the poker ecosystem. You want to attract more people into poker. So be ethical about it. Show some etiquette.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that, again, that cuts both ways. Like, if you're a woman who is the super crusher and you can beat open fields handily, perhaps it's not your role in the ladies' event either. The purpose of these events is greater than just the money to be won. It's about growing the pie. And I think you've kind of alluded as to that. Having a ladies' only event is one of the things that for you personally would grow the pie. And something we all benefit from. So I don't have a problem with the ladies only events. Certainly I might have an issue with it if things were more equal in the numbers.
Yeah, so if the proportion was 50-50, then the ladies only events, like, there's no point.
That's right. Then it would be unfair.
Exactly.
It'd be like, well, unless we can also have male only events and things like that. And then, but that becomes a different environment. It's interesting to compare it with other forms of sport, because as you kind of alluded to in the introduction, is it a good enough reason to just discriminate against a whole sex on the basis that you want to do something good for the game when there is no biological basis?
Well, there isn't, right? Because if it is, you're insinuating that women have less intellect than men. And of course, that's not true. But I guess the basis is what you said before, was the intention behind it is to grow the pie and increase the opportunities for women to jump into poker. Otherwise, they wouldn't have in the first place.
Yeah, that's my personal view as well. But taking a step back, there is a problem with having women's only events, in that one could argue, well, why don't we have race-based events? Why don't we have... because there are certain events that you say, well, this is an underrepresented group in poker. You could find other groups, I'm sure, perhaps not enough people of African descent playing poker. I don't know. This is just an idea. And therefore we need to have African American only, or African origin only. And people would have real issue with that. And I think rightly so.
Yeah.
So there has to be a balance. And I think in the case of women, I think it's just a social grace, something nice to do. You don't have to get all culture warrior about everything that happens if you can see the benefit of it. One can be ideologically opposed to segregation, which I am, for sure, but accept it in certain times and places. It's a nice thing to do, which is why I don't mind the social taboo against playing in a ladies only event. I wouldn't personally restrict it. If someone wants to break the taboo and get the social opprobrium for doing so, then I think that's up to them.
So what you're saying is don't have laws to outright ban men from entering ladies only events, but rely on the poker community to make it a taboo.
Make it etiquette.
Make it standard etiquette.
And I think that's the right approach. You can be gentlemanly about this, to use a traditional gender role. You can be chivalrous and allow women to have their game, where you don't try and come in and dominate that space. I understand the debate that's raging at the moment, and it's tied up with the trans thing, because people go and they look at this, and I'm sure when people click on this video, they will assume that this discussion is about trans, but it's not. There's this guy who is a man, and he just wanted to barge into the women's event, and he won it.
Yeah.
And people are debating that.
Is it ethical? Is it not ethical?
Yeah, I don't think it's unethical, but I think that the burdens we place on ourselves to actively ban that from happening would be greater than just accepting that there'll be a few people that flout the rules.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, no one would be talking about it if he didn't win.
Oh, of course not. Be like, oh, thank goodness, women, like, crushing the men.
And I'm sure...
And statistically, probably it happens a lot.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sure that men do occasionally jump into women's events. We just don't hear about it that often, because most of the time they bust out of the tournament, like everyone normally does, and away you go.
Yeah. All right, we'll bring back to you guys. Do you think it was right or wrong for a man to jump into a ladies-only poker tournament? Are our suggestions all right, or do you strongly disagree? Be kind, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and we'll see you next time.
Ciao for now.